The leaders of Britain, Canada and France have threatened sanctions against Israel if it doesn't halt a renewed military offensive in Gaza and lift restrictions on humanitarian aid. The news follows the arrival of a limited amount of aid trucks in Gaza after nearly 3 months of an Israeli blockade on food, medicine and other essential supplies. The three Western nations issued a joint statement calling the aid deliveries wholly inadequate and warned of concrete actions against Israel if it continues its latest military operations in Gaza.
It's a really serious, unacceptable, intolerable situation, and that's why we are working intensely to coordinate with other leaders how we respond to this, because it is intolerable, it is unacceptable, and we will continue to work in that way.
In response, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel would defend itself by just means until achieving total victory. He reiterated Israel's conditions for peace, which include the release of all remaining hostages and the demilitarization of the Gaza Strip.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum mourned the deaths of 2 sailors in the aftermath of the maritime collision at the Brooklyn Bridge Saturday. The Mexican naval vessel Katumak was en route to Iceland as part of a goodwill tour when it lost power and struck the Brooklyn Bridge Saturday.
La Secretaría de Marina y la Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores. Hay coordinación con las autoridades locales y por supuesto pues coordinación entre la embajada y la Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores y el gobierno de los Estados Unidos.
11 sailors were left in a critical condition when the Mexican vessel lost power and proceeded to crash into the Brooklyn Bridge shortly after 8 p.m. local time Saturday. The captain of the vessel reported losing power prior to the crash, with the National Transport Safety Board now conducting a full investigation.
A group of 68 immigrants from Honduras and Colombia returned to their home countries from the US under a new initiative by the Trump administration. The program promotes the departure of undocumented migrants in what the Trump administration is calling voluntary deportations. Experts believe the self-deportation offer is likely to appeal only to a small number of migrants already considering return, and is unlikely to generate high demand.
No creo que sean miles de personas que apliquen a ese programa por volumen, pero sí vamos a tener bastantes casos, y lo que nos compete es que vengan pues de manera ordenada, con vuelos charter, que tengamos los manifiestos con anterioridad para que así no haya ningún retraso y podamos apoyarles en todo lo que ellos requieren a su llegada al país.
In early May, the US government began offering a $1,000 payment to undocumented migrants who chose to leave the country voluntarily. The offer has been paired with high-profile detentions in the US and the transfer of several hundred Venezuelan migrants to a maximum security facility in El Salvador.
Living close to the front line means more than surviving the constant threat of an attack. It's also a daily battle for basic needs like medical care. In war-torn Ukraine, one organization named Dignitas Ukraine is stepping in where clinics no longer exist. Now, this is where residents living in the community of Biskvitne, once a Russian-occupied area of the Kharkiv region, come for care. The organization offers medical and psychological support to those, often the elderly or disabled, who by choice or not have remained. Co-founder Anna says one of the most important parts of their visit is showing locals they have not been forgotten.
Щось важливе, що про них хтось турбується. Це, як знаєте, що як підтримка. Тобто все буде добре. Це дуже важливо кожному чути, що ти впораєшся. Ми тебе просто підтримаємо.
With limited access to transport and financial resources, Yevinya relies on the mobile clinic to visit her home and help take care of her severely disabled son. Yevinya came back after evacuating with her son from the Russian invasion of the area. But if another occupation came, the 77-year-old and mother of 13 said she would not leave as it takes too much of a toll on her son.
She will stay. Easy. And she don't want to make him suffer.
Despite the dangers, which include drone attacks, mined roads and extreme weather conditions, the team works 7 days a week, covering 27 communities in the Kharkiv and Donetsk regions. Tatiana is one of the volunteer doctors, and she says she will work no matter the conditions.
Звик допомагати людям. Це твоя професія, це твоє призначення. Тобто це не великі слова, це так воно і є. Це не звертаєш ти уваги на середовище, ти не звертаєш увагу на їх соціальний рівень. Ти повинен виконувати свою роботу якісно. Ти повинен це робити, ти робиш це.
Daily bombings have destroyed homes, hospitals and vital infrastructure, leaving residents in a critical humanitarian situation. But during our time with the volunteers, it was clear that resilience was their only way forward.
Germany's new border policy is already on the brink. Newly appointed Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt has taken measures to tighten immigration. Anyone entering the country illegally is set to be strictly rejected, including asylum seekers. But now, trouble with neighboring countries is brewing. Poland has already refused to accept migrants. Switzerland and Luxembourg are also reluctant. How long will Dobrindt's ambitious initiative last?
Man sieht jetzt gerade, dass sich massiver Protest mehrt in unseren Nachbarländern, dass hier eben auch deutlich gemacht wird, wir nehmen die Leute nicht einfach zurück, wenn Deutschland sich nicht an diese Dublin-Regeln hält. Und genau diese Frage muss die Bundesregierung jetzt beantworten, wie sie dieses Chaos beenden will. Deswegen Menschen mit wirklich kriminellen, terroristischen Absichten, ja, die werden einen anderen Weg finden. Es ist auch davon auszugehen, dass Menschen, die zurückgewiesen werden, es einfach nochmal versuchen.
Germany is once again in shock due to a new wave of violence. On Sunday, a 35-year-old man stabbed bar patrons in Bielefeld, critically injuring 5 people before fleeing the scene. The main suspect, a Syrian national identified as Mahmoud, came to Germany in 2023. The German police unions say it's clear that tough border policies alone are not enough.
Die Tat in Bielefeld definiert sich insbesondere dadurch, dass wir ganz konkret davon ausgehen können, dass es sich hier um einen terroristischen Anschlag handelt. Vor allem zeigt es auch, wie gefährlich unkontrollierte Migration ist. Es ist nicht zum ersten Mal, dass ein Mensch aus dem Asylhauptherkunftsland hier Straftaten gegen Leib und Leben begeht. Insbesondere bei dem Bereich Sexual- und Gewaltdelikten sind es überproportional viele Menschen aus den Asylhauptherkunftsländern. Und schon deshalb definiert sich diese Migrationskrise zu einer echten Kriminalitätskrise und führt am Ende des Tages auch zu einem kollektiven Freiheitsverlust. Zurückweisungen sind sicherheitsspezifisch nur ein ganz kleiner Baustein eines großen Puzzles, wenn es darum geht, diese Kriminalitätskrise im Land für beendet zu erklären. Der Bundesinnenminister muss die Bundespolizei materiell, finanziell, personell und gesetzlich vernünftig ausstatten. Wir brauchen bundeseigene Abschiebehafteinrichtungen, Ankerzentren plus. Wir müssen die Gerichtsbarkeit stärken und vor allem müssen wir die Pull-Faktoren beenden, indem wir die finanziellen Anreize nun mal eben etwas entgegenwirken. Und die rhetorisch starken Worte von unserem Bundeskanzler im Wahlkampf sind uns noch in bester Erinnerung und an diesen Taten wird er jetzt auch gemessen und das ist folgerichtig.
More than 10 million voters were called this Sunday to choose the 230 members of the Portuguese parliament. The centre-right AD coalition won again, reinforcing its result of a year ago, although without a majority. The big surprise of the night was the Socialist Party, which obtained its worst result in 38 years. Pedro Nuno Santos resigned and guaranteed that he would not run for the socialist leadership again. Despite getting more votes, the PS won the same number of seats as Chega, 58. The Liberal initiative surpassed last year's result by electing its 9th MP, followed by Leave, which doubled its parliamentary representation. Another surprise on election night was Juntos pelo Povo, which was elected to the national parliament for the first time.
Com apenas 89 mandatos, a AD não tem condições para formar maioria, nem com um possível entendimento com a iniciativa liberal, nem com os votos da imigração. Luís Montenegro terá novamente a vida dificultada, ficando refém do PS e do Chega para aprovar o próximo programa de governo e futuros orçamentos. Joana Marão Carvalho, para a Euronews, em Lisboa.
Famous British BBC TV presenter Gary Lineker will step down from his role after sharing a social media post on Zionism. Lineker faced criticism for reposting an Instagram story about Zionism which featured a picture of a rat. Rats linked to disease and dirt have been used to represent Jews in anti-Semitic propaganda throughout history. Lineker apologized for his repost, saying that he would never knowingly share anything anti-Semitic. The former football player was due to cover next year's Men's World Cup. Instead, he will step down after next week's episode of Match of the Day. The decision comes after a tumultuous few years in the relationship between Lineker and the BBC.